Hi everyone, and welcome to I Am Illuminated Tarot and Meaning-Based Spiritual Coaching Services. I am Lauren, and I am here today to show you a quick introduction to the Triad of Engagement. Now, what is the Triad of Engagement? It is a tool that I use in my tarot and spiritual coaching practice that I have discovered has not only helped in my own personal life unlock the key to being able to allow your internal, unique spiritual self to engage with your external world, to help bridge that gap between who you are inside as a unique being and be able to bring that out and live it into life so that you are living from a place of empowered decision making. And what does that mean? It means that you overcome the debilitating and often disconnecting feelings of frustration and anxiety and fear to be able to understand that your external environment, or what I like to call the unknown, or the ever constant in life, which is change, and you are able to come from a place of knowledge about yourself, knowledge of who you are as a unique individual, and how you have this ability to control that aspect of self. No, we can't control our external environment, but yes, we can control how we connect our internal selves with that external environment, and how we can release those feelings of frustration and fear and anxiety with regards to the unknown by simply being able to tap back into our own inner power, our own place of control. We get to control how we make decisions. We get to control how we perceive our external environment and our perspective of how we get to interact with it. And by working with three very simple principles, the principles of curiosity, courage, and contemplation, you can use these three principles, the triad, to engage your inner unique self in a authentic and fearless and open and optimistic and aware way. And that's what these three principles help you do. Now, to go over each one briefly, I'm also going to have a little bit of a whiteboard moment where I will draw up what I'm talking about for those of you who are visual learners, as I am. But to go over each one first. So we have the principle of curiosity, and that's where we start. Why do we start there? Because curiosity is one of the first principles we really have a chance to interact with when we are small. So if you think of a child, especially an infant, and then as they get older, they are constantly curious because that is how they learn basically how they learn about their environment. They are learning how they are connecting with this environment. So when you watch a small baby, they're constantly putting things in their mouth or touching things and seeing what happens when they manipulate them. And this is a way of being curious. They're open to the unknown. They understand that they don't have any preconditioned notions, and so are working with the core underlying principles of the main principle of curiosity, which is openness to your external environment, receptive to your external environment, and optimistic. Most children, when they are working with the unknown, when they are working with engaging themselves with their external environment, they're coming from a place of, ooh, what's this? Fear only comes later as we get older and we realize that, ooh, yeah, touching that hot plate does hurt. It burns us. If I try to lean too far back in my chair, I could fall back and hurt myself. I might want to look down before I jump from this, edge. And that's all okay. We learn to engage with the element of fear, and fear is not something that we need to completely remove from our lives. There is a place for fear. But what I've found can happen, and why the triad of engagement starts with curiosity and starts with bringing us back to the core elements of what curiosity is there to help us do, which is learn about our environment in an open way. I start here because oftentimes what happens is fear ends up ballooning over the beneficial sides to curiosity, and we end up focusing just on the negative sides to curiosity, which is all of the things we've learned that can hurt us. And this understanding that the more curious we are about our external environment, the more we have to engage with the unknown, with the change component of life, with the fact that our external environment is out of our control. And so we stop being curious and we block ourselves off from being able to engage in an open and authentic way with our environment. We stop being aware. We put up a point of what I call masking. And what I mean by masking is we start to put these layers on ourselves that as we are curious, especially so we evolve from childhood into adulthood. We evolve from being first curious about what we can manipulate, what we can touch, what we can feel. And we eventually evolve as we get older into really understanding how we can start to be curious about bringing our internal, unique self out into our external environment and to test it. So it is no longer just if I can eat this and put it in my mouth, is it edible? Or if I sit on this, will bear the weight of me? It is about, if I show this part of my unique internal self, how will it be received? What is the reaction from my external environment? And what happens is, because we're not taught the way we are taught with other aspects of our life. So if you think about school, we are taught to use our minds. We are taught to move into a mental space, to grow that side to ourselves. We are also taught to develop our physical side to ourselves. So we are taught how to be active and how to join organized sports and things like that, where we learn how to test the limits of our physical sides. But we are not taught how to deal with the emotional and the spiritual side to our experience. And all four of these sides, physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional, need to be developed. We grow in all of those areas just as much as we grow in our physical being. And what can happen is, as we are learning to test and be curious about bringing out certain aspects of ourselves that are unique to us, we may get a negative response from our external environment. And instead of being taught that just like falling down when you try to get on a bike is natural and only part of the process, and that you are meant to fall down to understand how to get back up and what to do right the next time, we do the same in being curious and engaging with our spiritual side to ourselves and our emotional center. Those two are uniquely linked. And we don't get the education, the knowledge of, okay, so you brought out, let's use an example. Let's say one of your unique abilities is being able to stand up for justice. You're the person who stands up to the bully on the playground. And so you stand up to the bully on the playground, but what happens, instead of you coming into this place of triumph and being able to act in a sense of justice and fairness, you instead get beat up by the bully. And you feel bad. And there's this element now of fear associated with wanting to bring out this part of yourself that needs to be expressed, that you want to protect others, that you want to express and communicate from a place of fairness and justice. And instead you hide this part of yourself. You put a layer of masking on top of, ooh, instead of me trying that out in a slightly different way next time, where I can learn that, no, I didn't get the response I was expecting in this moment. This was the first time I've acted with, brought this part of myself out to act with my external environment, and I need to try again. And this time I need to have more of an awareness of what didn't work so that I can go ahead and show and try out what will work the next time. This can be something also along the lines of creativity. Perhaps you put yourself out there and you show somebody this beautiful painting you've created and somebody has a negative response to it. And this can happen to, all of us on some level at some point when we try to express ourselves. Perhaps you're the one that likes to talk a lot. You express yourself verbally. And that's how you connect with others as well. And it's what brings emotional fulfillment, is through talking and verbalizing your thoughts and your experiences. But you were told to be quiet. You're told by others around you, we don't talk this much. And so you learn to repress and repress and mask and mask and mask. Instead of saying, okay, well, and this really does come from, again, a lack of awareness in our general culture to help each one of us develop our uniqueness. With boundaries, of course. We do need to learn that no, there's not, if we feel like screaming in the middle of quiet time, that's not the place to do that. Because obviously we don't live on an island. We do live in connection with others. But there are unique traits to each one of us that are truly unique, and they are in conjunction with all of the other unique elements of our experience that make each one of us a singular being. And so, when we are learning to be curious about ourselves and our abilities, kind of if you imagine like a superhero uncovering these little aspects of, I can fly, I can read minds, I can have laser vision. Well, each one of those is going to come with a mistake. Maybe you know you can fly, but you fly too fast and you fly into something and hurt yourself. Or you can read the thoughts of others, but realize that it's not always appropriate to do so. Or you have laser vision and you set something out on fire the first time you try to use it. But it doesn't mean that that's not meant to be used. It doesn't mean that that's bad. You were born with those unique set of talents for a reason. And so it's not about when you realize that you like to talk and verbally express more than another. It's not on you to shut that part of yourself down, to bring it to the base level of the person who doesn't like to talk. And that their mode of expression is not verbalizing, is not through speaking and, integrating their experience through the mode of verbalization. It's about learning how to express that in a beneficial way to yourself, to realize this is what makes me different. I don't mind speaking in front of the class. That doesn't make me afraid where it does with others. So I can actually be in a position to strengthen and utilize one of my key abilities to be an example to others as to how to speak well in front of a large group of people. I can actually be of service in simply utilizing and working with my gift of talk, my gift of gab. I can help others who have difficulties doing so. And this is really where we start to engage with awareness of what makes us different from others, but also what engages us with others, what helps start to show where we are connected and what piece to the puzzle of life do we fit into? What piece are we? And so this is what we start with curiosity to help break down those layers of masking and to work with the energy of fear and anxiety that directly correlate to our external environment and the lack of control that we have. So, instead, we choose to tap into that childlike sense of awe and wonder. And I look at talking about curiosity from a place of openness, receptivity, and optimism. And if we can get back to that curiosity of, okay, I can take off all this masking, and I'm going to apply the same curiosity towards my external environment as I'm going to apply towards myself. So this is where we start when we feel disconnected, because we have to know ourselves first. It's not just about looking at our external environment and seeing all of the things that are wrong with it or seeing all the things that we can't control. It's about going back to self first and being curious about yourself first. Because if you don't know yourself and you don't know your unique abilities, it's very difficult to understand then where you need to keep working in your engagement with your external environment. You end up going back to square one of being just like a child and, falling back on subconscious patterns. And when you, again, don't get the response from your external environment that you're seeking, you will shut down again. So this is about really digging deep and being curious about who am I? Who am I as a unique individual without the layers of masking that came from these points of fear and anxiety that I collected as I made the attempt to express these parts of myself, the unique parts of myself as I grew up. And so we start there and we break down those masking layers and we really take a look at, it's time for you to be open to life again and open to the responses. But this time you get to come from a place of empowerment, so that when you start to talk and somebody in your external environment says, you're talking too much, like, shh. This is where now you get a chance to understand that this is a key ability of yours. And now, instead of taking offense at what that person said or feeling hurt, you can instead say, no, I'm not, and this is, you don't have to say it out loud. This can be an internal awareness of that this is my superpower. And maybe I need to work on expressing this in a slightly different way. It was not received well, but no, I'm not going to stop talking. No, I'm not going to stop utilizing my voice, but there is something here that in my communication, it did not come through the way that I was expecting. But this is my place of personal power. This is where I can make the changes, and this is what's within my control. So it's within my control to not hide this part of myself. And it's in my control to start to learn to work with this gift. So just like Superman might have initially set something on fire accidentally and burned down his parents', nice cabinet that they had in their living room, he's not going to sit there and say, well, I will never work with that again. Instead, he's going to say, I'm going to be curious. I'm going to see if I can take this outside and work with it to learn how it works and really what the power is behind this and how I can utilize it in a beneficial way. And I think actually, I use as an example, and there'll be in the description box below, there's a link to a downloadable PDF that uses this as an example and actually has a few key exercises and questions to ask yourself this month as we start, or not this month, but to ask yourself if you want to start to work with the element of curiosity and courage and contemplation, that I talk about the movie Frozen. And I think Frozen is a great example as to, really why it resonated with so many people. Because it is something that all of us, we can all empathize with the main character. Now, the main character is Elsa, and she has a superpower. She can freeze things. And at some point in her childhood, she ends up freezing things to the point where she ends up freezing her sister accidentally and almost killing her sister. And because she has such a negative response from obviously utilizing something that she is not accustomed and equipped to utilize because she has not been practicing it, she ends up shutting down and hiding that part of herself. Now, this is an amazing talent, but she hides it. And in turn, she ends up hiding herself, her authentic self, from everyone else. And she hurts the connections between her and her sister and her and everybody else because she's not connecting authentically. And so she's living in a place when she finally gets to be of age and is asked to step into being the role of queen to her native land because she's a princess. She's been living with anxiety and fear for so long that when she finally gets to this place, it's not this happy occasion of, oh my goodness, I get this opportunity to, lead my land well, and I get to work with my gifts and I get to show them to people. Instead, it's another layer of fear of, oh my gosh, if they find out that I have this ability, what's going to happen? But now it's gotten to this point where it's built up inside her. She needs to release it. And this is the way it is with all of us with unique abilities. We can only hide who we are for so long. And then there's this push, this need, this desire to just release it. And that's really where we can get into trouble, is when we hold ourselves back and we hold these aspects of ourselves, and then they come out in even more hurtful ways. And so that's what happens with her, that she's been living in fear and anxiety. Instead of enjoying life and enjoying her talents and marveling at what she can do with them and how they can be of use to others, including herself, she has instead been living with fear. And now she gets to this place where through a change in her external environment that, again, she can't control. The only thing she can control is herself and her own abilities. She gets into this place where she's pushed by external events that she can't control to then come to a place where finally everybody sees her talent. Everybody sees her ability to freeze. But because no one's been aware of it and because she's never learned how to use it, it's out of control and it kind of explodes in front of everybody. And everybody's like, oh my God, she has this crazy ability. And she ends up running away from her kind of inauguration ceremony because it's embarrassing and it's frightful and everybody's shocked and awed. And instead of being curious and saying, are people going to be shocked and awed and in wonder and amazement at what I can do? Or she automatically assumes that it's going to be, again, people looking at her with a negative, oh my gosh, look at what she can do. That's so dangerous. And she ends up running away. And then that's where, the big theme song that I'm sure everybody's heard a million times over, where she's, just having to finally gets a chance to be herself. And she builds her ice palace and she gets to live in this ice world for a brief moment. And sometimes that's what we end up doing, is when we've lived in fear and anxiety for so long because we are no longer curious about bringing the internal parts of ourselves out into our external environment. We've been hiding ourselves for so long. We will kind of build our own ice palace. We try to build a way to control our external environment. And in reality, that's never going to work because the one constant in life is change. And the one thing we can't do is control our external environment. And so we can try to build these what people have called safe spaces. You can try to lock yourself in a room and surround yourself only by people who share your opinions or can do what you can do. Or you build the environment where you're the perfect environment. She builds her ice castle where great, only she can live there, in comfort because she has this ability to work with the cold. But the average person can't live there with her. So she ends up blocking herself off from connections to others. And she blocks herself off from being able to utilize her gift in service to others. And that's what we do as people. We end up kind of walling ourselves off in this fake sense of security. And we cut ourselves off from engaging with the world. And we cut ourselves off from being curious about how to bring out the best version of our unique abilities at any given time and how we can really learn to see that these are of service. These are not things to hide from others. These are things that need to be brought out, they need to be worked with, and they need to be understood. And then once we can work with curiosity and we can change our perspective from one of being afraid to interact with our external environment because we're afraid of the response that we can't control, we move into a seat of courage where we now have come back into awareness through curiosity, through being open again as to who we are, what our talents are, and we're beginning to see our own importance again. We're beginning to understand too how that's directly tied to feelings of emotional fulfillment and happiness. And then when we then integrate the principle of courage, this is where we now have to learn to take action again, where we come back into our seat of power, where we realize that each decision we make can be made from a place of empowered, self-directed action towards our external environment. It's easy to be courageous when you have information. It's easy to show a child how to ride a bike and they look at you like, whoo, he is so courageous. She just jumped on that 2-wheel bike and rode down the street and came back. It's easy to look courageous and to act courageous when you are aware of your abilities. You're aware of what you're capable of. You're aware of how to do something. And you are continually self-learning. But many of us don't give ourselves that chance to get to that place because we're stuck at step one. We're stuck at curiosity. We are no longer curious about the world. We have lost that awareness of self, and thereby we have lost our awareness of our purpose and our place. And so we kind of just go through the motions. We either, do what Elsa did with her ice palace and we block ourselves off from engaging in an optimistic way with our external environment. Or we just block ourselves off completely from feeling because we don't want to feel that we can't be ourselves. We don't want to feel that disappointment. We don't want to feel that, because through feeling, that's really where we understand that something's not right. That's where we understand that the job we're in is not the right fit for us, or the location we're living in is not the right place for us, or the family interactions that we're born to maybe are not the healthiest for us. This is where we disconnect and we start to just live our day-to-day life. And when we wake up and realize we're not feeling happy, it's not a surprise, or shouldn't be a surprise, because you're not living your life. You're living in life, but you're not living into life. And when I say into life, that means you are bringing your internal self into the external environment and engaging it so that you're locking with the wheels and the gears of the divine design that you're a part of, and you are able to then actually be a part of it. And instead, what ends up happening is if you're just living in life, then you're just every day waking up and there's this disconnect between your internal self and your external environment. You're just going through the motions. It's almost like you're an automated robot. Get up, turn my alarm clock off, I get in the car, I drive to work, I'm at work, say the same things, I do the same things, and then I come home, and then I do some laundry, and then I cook dinner, and I go to bed, and before I go to bed, maybe I binge watch four episodes of some Netflix show, and then I go to bed, and then I do it all over again. And at no point in that day are you aware that you are a unique being and that every interaction you have is an opportunity to express yourself, to utilize your talents, to help others through your abilities, and by bringing those into every situation, whether it's in a nice, thoughtful conversation with your coworkers where you're able to tap into your, again, power of conversation and verbalization of your thoughts and feelings, and being able to express something to them that maybe somebody else has never been able to express. Or you have the ability to, at the supermarket, realize that somebody else has more items in their basket than yours and you're not in a hurry. And because you're aware and engaged and understand that one of your superpowers is kindness and empathy, that you allow that person to step in front of you. And it makes their day. And it makes you feel good and of service. It's these little things, these little points of awareness that make every minute of our lives hold the possibility of meaning and fulfillment for us. So as we move into a place of courage, courage is where we take action on now who we are. That once we've gotten past that fear of being curious again about ourselves, of unmasking who we are, and realizing that the world is not a horrible place. It's actually a pretty fantastic place. We've just been fearful of showing ourselves into it. That the world is actually just as beautiful as we are beautiful. That now you have that ability to courageously take action from a place of empowerment. You have that choice to, I know I'm a kind and empathetic person. And in this moment, I can either choose to let that person in the grocery store line step in front of me, and I can engage with them in that brief moment and be of service to them, or I cannot, and I can hide this part of myself. Or you have the choice in the moment to understand that you have this gift of self-expression, and that perhaps no one on your team at work is stepping up to verbalize a large issue or complaint that, if brought to awareness, might help not only just your team be able to effectively work better, but possibly the entire company. And so you have in that moment that chance to make a decision based on your internal self, to courageously take action from a place of control, that you can utilize a gift of verbalization to be able to verbalize what others don't have the superpower to do. Superpower to verbalize in the way that you can. And you can choose to not do so with fear that instead of being curious and optimistic about the outcome of what if I do use my superpower in this moment to help facilitate and bring awareness to something. Instead of looking at it from the place where you've probably been for quite some time, which is, well, I shouldn't speak up because it's probably no one's even going to listen anyways, and they're probably going to tell me just to be quiet because that's my previous experience. Instead, now you're coming from a place of kind of that Pollyanna, that optimistic awareness of, you know what? The world, the external environment is completely and constantly surprising us. In this moment, these are different people. This is a different situation. And I have a superpower ability to communicate through self-expression, more so than my colleagues. And I now am being asked to step up courageously to come from a position of power to make a decision to take action, to bring out this part of myself in this moment and live it into life, so that then I can be of service to my team, possibly of service to the entire company, because I am bringing awareness in a very well-spoken and structured way. And in addition to that, I am learning how, in taking courageous action, this is my point of control. No, I can't control my external environment. And especially I can't control my external environment if I don't take action. And the action I do choose to take is me passive aggressively, complaining about issues at work without actually taking action towards facilitating a solution, or even just expressing that there's an issue to begin with. And so this is where we start to learn that there's a reason why courage is the second and very necessary part, the next step in overcoming fear and anxiety, because we begin to learn that we have the ability to change outcomes, to start to push movement of innovation and change, and we can actually have some control in that. And that often, by just changing our perspective that little bit from what if I get a negative response to what if I can be of service in taking this action, you start to unlock the beauty of life, and you bring yourself back to a position of power. And you bring yourself back to the awareness of your own personal power. So let's say for you, you are a naturally creative person, and maybe your mode of self-expression is painting. And maybe you're afraid of telling people about the fact or showing people the paintings that you make. But now you can't possibly, there's not always, again, you can't control your external environment 100%. So maybe you attempted at some point to show your paintings to the world and it wasn't received well. But instead of hiding this part of yourself, because, well, at that time you realized you couldn't make money and so you had to get a job doing something else, it doesn't mean that you hide this part of yourself. It means that you bring this part of yourself into every aspect of everything else that you choose to do. So perhaps this heightened ability to create through a specific medium, whether it's drawing or painting, or just being able to see how colors come together, that you can utilize this in helping interact with your current environment. So maybe you're in a job that, no, you're not, just painting the paintings that you would love to do all the time, but you are able to step up and add, the best, most beautiful PowerPoint presentation to go along with your team's overall project presentation. And it's that little element of taking pride in you being able to know how colors work together and understanding the importance of maybe somebody else in your team's like, we don't need to have that cool cover page and people don't need to see that, and you say, no, people do need to see that. It's important to me. Thereby, I know it's important on some capacity. I know that this is meant to be shared. And you go ahead and you do it. And you take pride in that this is what you're bringing to the team. You're bringing this visual component. This is your skill. This is your superpower. And this is what all of a sudden somebody else, maybe a regional director, sees and says, oh my gosh, this caught my eye. Everybody else submitted their, project proposals and they're just, sheets of endless numbers and data. And I saw yours and the colors struck me. And suddenly you've opened yourself up and you've opened up your whole team to something that otherwise would not have been. And in doing so, and just in the process of you helping your team on that level, it's also fulfilling for you in the moment. You get to do something that's more in tune with you, that's more fun for you. And you get to be of service at the same time. And this is really where we learn to engage with life with full awareness while learning how to be courageous enough to take action in accordance with ourselves. And not in a way that railroads over other people, because we need to respect, and as we become aware of ourselves, we become aware that everybody else, every single other person in the world or the universe, depending on your beliefs, is just as unique as you. And we have to respect that. We have to respect that each person has their own perspective and their own unique gifts. And so by focusing on working with your gifts, you can allow them to focus on theirs. So it isn't about you going in and convincing everybody that they too also have to, help build this cover page. If you want to build the cover page and make it beautiful, then take pride in doing that and let them do the things that you don't want to do. Let them compile the data. Let them create the graphs and the pie charts and the flow charts and things like that. Same thing with the family. Let's say you bring this out of the career and into the family. Let's say you're the one that maybe you do like to cook dinner, and this is a form of being able to express your creativity while also giving back to your family. And maybe, you have busy schedules, and so you've started to kind of pull back from doing this. And instead, what you need to do is express and create and courageously make decisions that create the time for you to do this, that create the time for you to be creative, to be able to cook for your family, and to not then put it on your significant partner or somebody else, that when this very important aspect of not only being creative and supporting your family and also a time for your family to sit down and be together, when you can't do it yourself, don't try to then push this off to your partner and say, well, this is important to me. This is important. Family dinner time is important. So, if I can't do it, you should do it. Well, yes, you're in a partnership with somebody else, and yes, you two should be working together, but perhaps that's not that important to that other person. Perhaps to them, they're like, I could just sit on the couch and eat takeout and watch Netflix and chat with the kids a little bit, and that's enough for me. I don't need to make this, beautiful farm-to-table meal and then have everybody sit down at a structured time and discuss the day. And so it's not on us to force that on another and then to feel resentful when they don't fulfill that for us because we're not taking action from a place of where we can control. So we can't control another person. They're part of our external environment. The only thing that we can do is control ourselves. And so if that's important to you, it's not about putting it on somebody else, and then when they don't fulfill that aspect, then resent them, and then also resent the loss of the emotional fulfillment that comes from your ability to fulfill that. It's about realizing that no, you have to be courageous. And sometimes being courageous is telling that other person, this is important to me. And it's so important to me because it does bring out this side to myself. It brings out this creative side. It brings out my love of nutrition. It brings out my love of being able to bond with my family in this way. And I need to express this. And so I need more time. I need to get off work earlier. Or I need you to pick up the kids from soccer practice so that I have a chance to have time to cook at home. This is what I need. And then take it from there, but do it in an optimistic way. You're taking courage to express your needs. You're taking courage to make a decision. And there can be these little decisions that happen all throughout the day. And this is where we realize that we can give over our seat of control and personal power, living from a place of empowerment in just the little decisions that then snowball into one giant feeling of frustration and disconnection, where we might get all of these little opportunities throughout the day to make a decision. So maybe, you had that decision to, instead of, checking your Facebook on your phone for, 20 minutes while you were at work, you had that chance to make the courageous decision to put your phone down and send out the 3 emails needed to send so that you could leave work early enough and on time to be able to get home to cook dinner for your family. And that's a point of awareness, of understanding your why at any given point, the meaning behind consciously saying, I could spend 20 minutes on my phone, or I could take courageous action towards getting me to a place that's going to make me feel good about what I'm doing. And instantly in that moment, you're back and empowered. You're back and in control of your experience. Or you have a coworker that comes up and wants to gab and gab and gab and gab, and you know that you have to finish your work, and this is where you can take that moment of courageous action to say, oh gosh, you could, one of two things, passively, aggressively just sit there and, think to yourself, oh God, I'm just going to zone out while so-and-so talks to me about all the same things again. And I'm going to just look at my life and go, this is so awful. And, this is going to hold me up. And you can make all these excuses, or you can bring it back to your internal seat of control and tell that person, hey, and openly again, express. Take the courage to express this unique part of yourself, to say, hey, I really have to get back to work. I love talking to you. I can see that your gift, is sharing these amazing stories. You're such a storyteller. I love it. But I have to finish this right now because one of my main loves of life is being able to come home and cook for my family, and they're expecting this from me, and I don't want to disappoint them. But I will make sure to follow up on that story. Thanks so much. And then just take, that person, you can't control their reaction. And they may walk away with a smile on their face and think, oh my gosh, I'm a storyteller, and that's enough. Or they may walk away and say, that person's such a jerk. But it doesn't matter, because you took that time to authentically take the power back to you, and you expressed yourself authentically so that you can continue to express yourself authentically in actions down the line. And this is how we re-engage ourselves with every minute of every day so that we become in flow. And the more you do this, the easier it becomes. So it gets to this point where once you start to work with courage and having the courage to take action and make these little decisions in accordance with yourself, and by bringing these little elements of yourself and bringing them into life, you then get the chance to move to contemplation, to where now you're working with awareness. And you're working with bringing yourself into situations with ease. You are aware of your unique talents. You are aware of your desires and needs and dreams and hopes. And you're no longer pushing them aside. You're no longer hiding them. And they're no longer coming out and surprising you and catching you off guard. So that when all of a sudden you burst into tears because, you've been needing a vacation for 3 years and no one seems to notice that catches you off guard. You're never going to, when you're working in flow with yourself, with awareness, when you're working with the principles of curiosity and you're staying open to yourself and open to your external environment, and you're working with courage that allows you to make decisions from an empowered and aware place, you are then able to really be able to just live in flow. You're going to be aware of your own emotions. You're going to be aware of what makes you feel good in any given moment. You're going to be aware that it might be time to leave this job now. That every day you go into work, you're trying to bring out the parts of yourself, that whatever you can, as best you can, to enjoy this moment in this time. But sometimes we get to this point where you can't control your external environment, and so perhaps you ask multiple times to step up into this managerial role because you know that you're a strong leader and you know that this is one of your talents, and you keep asking and you keep asking, and maybe your company just isn't hiring. Maybe they legitimately just don't have a place to promote you. And this is where you have to realize that if this is something that feels like it needs to be expressed, that you feel like you want to mentor others, that you want to express this leadership side to yourself, and you realize that as much as you've taken courageous action in asking for, in letting your superiors know that you would love to step into this role, you have expressed, you've gone back and you've checked back in, and they just come back and simply say, we just don't have that position for you. That's when you get to the chance to understand, okay, I've done all that I can do. Now it's time for me to make a change. And this is what prevents us from getting stuck. This is what prevents us from stagnating. This is what allows us to continually grow and evolve. And continually grow and evolve on an emotional and spiritual level as much as a physical and mental level. that we are so in tune now with what makes us feel good or doesn't, that once we realize, well, I need to express this part of myself and I'm limited here, instead of looking at it as a negative and kind of banging your head against the wall of like, I'm going to make this work, I have to make this work, I have to get my external environment to change. Instead, you can say, no, I know that I can be the initiator of change. And that's really stepping into that seat of courage. But it's also integrating contemplation. And contemplation is the final piece to the triad of engagement, because contemplation allows you to have more of this kind of top-down view of what you've been curious about, your external environment and how you internally act, with where you chose to take action and the reaction or the consequence that resulted. And this is where, with contemplation, we get a chance to sit back and say, I've asked 4 times about management position, and I've been told the same thing each time. Just don't have the ability, we just don't have the money, we just don't have the position. Okay, now what am I going to learn? And this is our seat. So contemplation is our seat of spiritual and emotional growth. This is where we get a chance to learn our lessons, to learn from our actions, and to continually self-educate. I think this is incredibly an important principle, because a lot of us, and it's kind of strange because, we're surrounded by so much information nowadays. We have Google, and, at any given point we can pull up our phones or pull up our computers and be able to have a wealth of information. And yet we stop educating ourselves. We tie in education with formal education, with, I have to go back to school for that, or I was never taught that. Well, you can teach yourself. You have the ability to self-educate through direct experience with your external environment and in taking courageous action. You can take courageous action to, if you really want to learn about a topic, you can go down the street to your local library and access books for free, if you feel that you don't have the ability to pay to download them. You have the ability to take courageous action and actually sign up for free courses. You can just go out and get an internship where you're learning through direct experience. But more than anything, when you dig into the core components and the benefits of contemplation that include reflection time, that include meditation, that include the ability to really take stock of what you were curious about, what happened with your external environment, and as you engaged your unique self and took action towards it, what happened? You have this unique ability now to really understand, okay, what did I learn? I learned from asking multiple times that I would like to be promoted that my company doesn't have this position available. And so now what am I going to do about that? What have I learned? Have I learned that this position is available because, it is available, but I have to take courses to get to that point? I need an additional certification? Or have I just learned simply that this is it? There's nothing else I can do here, nothing else within my control to take action on. And so my next course of action is going to be to find another job now that will better fit my authentic self and my needs in this moment. But without contemplating on that, without thinking about it, without understanding, okay, this was what was going on in my external environment. I was curious about this aspect of myself, about developing my leadership skills and testing it out in the external environment. And so I took action. And without actually seeing, okay, well, what happened? What was the result of that? You can get stuck in that place of courage of like just taking action, and never understanding the consequence. So then this is also another area where you can get stuck, where you're not learning from the past. You're not learning your lessons. You're not learning from how, each interaction is providing you with self-education. And so this is where we can get stuck in patterns. This is where we can get stuck, being in the same type of relationship over and over and over again. That's not a good one for us. This is where we can get stuck in being in the same type of job. So we'll leave one job and go to another job and go to another job, and we get to have the same experience. And it's not because all of those places were exactly the same. There's the one core component that is the same, right? The place where you have control, it's you. And so each time you go into a situation, the one constant is you. And so without truly having that time to reflect, and time to reflect also includes the ability to transcend your current circumstances just through awareness. So perhaps you are sitting in maybe a less than ideal living situation. And you know that if you could move into a better living situation, maybe a location that's less noisy or there's less crime, where you don't have to feel that you are in fear at night, or you have the quiet to be creative instead of having your neighbors bump music all night long, that you can now sit there and contemplate on your experiences up until this point and be able to tap into the power of yourself and what you've learned. To contemplate on what is currently wrong, what lessons you've learned about yourself, and how you can, from a position of power, be able to take action to changing that. And really understanding that at any given time, we have the ability to not only transcend our current external environment, our situation, but we also have the ability to transcend on an emotional and mental and spiritual level as well. That we can realize and make breakthroughs at any given time just through meditation. We can simply, just by sitting quietly and reflecting on the day, we can have that aha moment of, oh my God, I forgot that my coworker had that great idea, and that great idea I'd love to take part in. Or by contemplating on my day, I have this ability to take a look at my life and what I'm grateful for, engaging me again with my environment. What gives me emotional fulfillment? What fulfills me in that level of feeling gratitude for what I have? Instead of just kind of going through it blindly and not appreciating what you have in the moment until it's either gone or until you're pushed to finally be grateful for something. Contemplation is important because it allows us to be able to really tap into the spiritual side of ourselves. It allows us to, and contemplation is important to do as a practice. It can't just be, I do say that yes, it can be as simple as just spending 2 minutes of your time just reconnecting with yourself in a place of quiet and awareness. But it's also a practice in that you really should develop on some level something that takes on a contemplative form. Now that can be different for everybody. No, you don't have to take up yoga or learn how to om and, recite chants. You can become a runner. Maybe you like to run, you like to physically express yourself. Well, you can go for a run to clear your head and allow your physical manifestation of contemplation to allow for your spiritual ability to also benefit from reflective time. Or contemplation can also be seen as, finding a group of people who like to do something similar to you. Maybe you guys are all together and you like to, do singing bowls, sound healing, or drum circles, or areas, something where you can be with others, but also at the same time disconnect and get into a feeling of rhythm and flow with yourself. This can be through dance. This can be through, again, just going and working out. Or it can be developing a prayer practice where at the end of every day you pray and you utilize that time to pray for specific things. And by praying for specific things, it brings those into awareness. And that's really what contemplation is. Contemplation is this final place of integrating your external environment and your internal environment, and then being able to bring those two together and really be able to see the greater connectivity, to be able to contemplate and realize the beauty that is the ability to bring yourself, your unique abilities out in connection with the greater whole, and to realize that you hold a special place. And that special place is meant to bring you a sense of emotional fulfillment. It's meant to bring you a sense of joy. It's meant to connect you with others in a meaningful way. And it's meant for you to be able to derive a sense of meaning and purpose at any given time throughout the day. And that's how these three principles work together to re-engage you with life. So my specialty is working with people who have found that they're stuck. Found that they're stuck at step one, basically. And I think we've all been there. We've all been there, where you just feel like you're treading water and you're not getting anywhere. Or when somebody asks you, when was the last time you were truly happy? You stop and you can't answer readily. That you have to step back and say, I don't know, when was I happy? I can't remember. Or when we've woken up after 10 years and realized, I can't remember a single thing that I did that was done with awareness. I worked at a job, I was in a relationship, and now I'm waking up almost from a dream and saying, who is this person folding clothes on their couch? I don't even know myself. And I can say this from a place of, I was there myself. I was that person who woke up after a decade of not feeling happy, of not feeling connected to purpose. I was that person who woke up, and when I was laid off from my job, I realized that I had been working so much and I had nothing else. I had filled my time with nothing else. I had just worked. And that I had let my relationship stagnate. I wasn't even aware that my relationship wasn't healthy. My husband at the time. I realized I had no hobbies. I had not been working with my passions. I had simply just been going through the motions. Totally disconnected. And I don't look back and regret those years as something I've lost. I look back at the catalyst of change for myself, which was getting laid off from a job, to where I had to come to that grinding halt of going 1,000,000 miles an hour for so long and being in incredibly stressful environments and living with anxiety and living with fear of, well, I can't leave. This doesn't feel right. I'm stressed. My body was starting to break down. I was starting to manifest with chronic illnesses, which, magically resolved themselves once I had the time to focus back on myself. But when I wasn't aware, everything was kind of breaking down. And all these warning signs were going off around me, but I wasn't able to see them. And I wasn't able to bring out the best parts of myself, and I wasn't able to work with them. And I was so grateful, and am so grateful now, for the change in my external environment. I'm so grateful for the unknowable, the element of change, that thing I had been so scared of for so long, where I had wanted to leave a job that I knew wasn't fulfilling me, but I wasn't taking the time to actually dive in and to understand, well, what would fulfill me? And I wasn't acting from a place of courage to say, I need to walk away from this and see what else is out there. Instead, I was living in fear and anxiety of, well, what if I leave this job? What if I never find anything better? If I don't work this hard, what if I don't make as much money? if I, it's all those what ifs. And I lived in that land of negative what ifs, and I stopped being curious about the what if possibilities. What if I leave this job and I find something so much better? But it's hard to come from that place when you don't know what better means to you. And so I had that rare opportunity to have that time to do that. I was kind of kicked in the face by something that I had been so scared of happening, and then it happened, and then I realized this was the best thing that could have happened to me, because it gave me that free time, that downtime to contemplate. It gave me that free time to be curious about myself again, to say, if I have no hobbies and I have no passion, then what is my passion? What do I need to reconnect with? Who am I? I'm not just an empty being, that I'm not a robot. And so if I'm not happy, what will make me happy? And that's what started my path to reconnection, to realizing you can't live with fear and anxiety of the unknown, because the unknown is there to help push you to be the best version of yourselves. And when tragic things happen or fateful things happen, it's because we are meant to be fulfilling some aspect in the greater collective experience, and we're not doing that. And I want to share this lesson that I had the beautiful opportunity to learn, and learn very easily that by just simply reconnecting with these three principles, you're able to re-engage with life in this almost flawless flow. Yes, you're still going to have those days where you're like, oh, I probably shouldn't have done that. You're not going to ever wipe out feelings of embarrassment or feelings of anxiety. Those will still be there, but you can mitigate them. And you can learn to embrace the unknown with waking up every day with this sense of, I know who I am, I know what I'm capable of, and I'm so ready to see what this day is going to bring me. And I know that I am needed. And in just me waking up and being the best version of myself, I get to be of service for others. I get to elevate others' experiences. I get to elevate the collective in addition to making my own self happy. I don't have to give up one for the other. And I don't have to work for a nonprofit to feel good about the work that I do. I can simply just show up at work and integrate parts of my internal self into what I do. And that's the beauty of engagement, is that you learn to create meaning for yourself. You stop waiting for meaning to come to you. You stop waiting for your external environment to make you happy. You stop waiting for other people in your life to change. You stop waiting for that perfect job. You stop waiting for that perfect person. And you start living. You start living as yourself. You start to engage with freedom. And you start to understand and see life as beautiful again. And you realize that all the power is in this present moment. It is not if and when, it is right now. And you are meant to be happy in this moment, not down the line, not when you do this, not if you do this. You can assign yourself meaning right now. And you can even take your own suffering and change your perspective on it to be able to find that personal meaning in your suffering, because you know that suffering was part of uncovering your super ability. Each one of us will suffer in our own unique way. And oftentimes we're not able to express that suffering in a way that others might understand, because everybody's own suffering is unique. We may suffer through the loss of family or friends, through a tragic set of circumstances, through the loss of a job, through being born with a birth defect or suffering from a mental illness. But these are all things that are meant to provide us with kind of a giant spotlight on what our challenge is to unlock our superpowers. So perhaps you battle with depression, and it's meant to push you to understand the dark side to life that needs to be expressed, that those who do not battle with depression oftentimes don't work with, can't see. And the beauty and balance to life is that we have to have dark to be able to see the light. And so people need to express this darkness for all of us to be able to appreciate and work with light at the same time. So that's why when I see artists who are able to express that darkness, it is so beautiful in its own way. It's not meant to be hidden. It's meant to be brought out. It's meant to be made aware of, and for you to work with it from a place of awareness. Also, if you found ways to mediate how severe this, your depression is, perhaps you're in a place to be of support then to others, to guide them, or to talk about this to help others who deal with people who have depression in their lives to be able to understand better what they're navigating, what they're working with. And that's your unique cross to bear, so to speak, because that's your place to fill in the world. No, you don't need to let an illness or a birth defect or the fact that you were born a woman or a man or, whatever, define and limit you. But you can look at it as that this is all part of what makes you a singularity. Part of what makes you truly unique and separate from all others. And that your suffering is not in vain. And it is not meant for you to have to live in fear and hide away from the world, like Elsa in Frozen. Your suffering is meant to unlock your greatest gift. And that's where you derive meaning. And that's where you derive purpose. And that's also where you can tap into the seat of passion. All right, guys. I hope you have enjoyed this, and I hope this has been beneficial in showing you how, in working with the 3 simple principles of curiosity, courage, and contemplation in my triad of engagement, how it can show you the best version of yourself. It can help engage you with the world. It can help allow you to engage from a place of empowered action, and how it can bring emotional fulfillment and feelings of joy and purpose and passion back into your life. All right, guys, I will have a small diagram of just a quick drawing of, again, for visual learners out there, as well as the downloadable content in the link below. All right, everybody, I hope you have one of the most engaged days. And if you're interested in booking a personal tarot reading, intuitive reading, or a one-on-one coaching session, the link to my website is also in the description box below. Bye, everyone.